Okay, today I'd like to talk about framing. Now this is kind of a typical framing. We have 2x6 walls on the outside of our houses on 2-foot centers. Now there are several components to the wall. If you look down here at the bottom, this is called the sole plate. And then we have our studs. We have our double top plate. We call that a top plate and a cap plate. We also have a window framed here. Generally, we order our windows to be a 1/2 inch smaller in both directions than a rough opening. Now, we put headers, or what we call these things, over the windows. Now this one is a lot more beefy than is necessary. A single 2x10 with a 2x6 plate on the bottom would be plenty, with what we call cripples. These are cripples right here. Now at the edge of the window you would have a crown stud, and this is what you call a trimmer. This is a bottom cripple here. Now when you frame these walls, the things you want to look for is up here at the top. You notice how the plate is tight against the studs. Notice how the header is tight against the king stud, how the cripple or the trimmers are tight against there. Everything has to be tight. Another thing you've got to watch, it's got to be flush. All of your surfaces on these studs, and this would be the window sill here, as opposed to the header. Header's the top, sill's the bottom. You notice too, we have blocking. This is where our cabinet goes. This is to fasten our cabinets to. We have 1/2 inch OSB on the outside of the studs, and we have 1/2 inch styrofoam on top of that between the OSB and the siding. All the joints are taped to keep it airtight. One thing that you've got to do when you frame these walls, you've got to turn all your crowns the same way. Now if you look down a piece of lumber, it's always got, well, most of the time it has a little bit of a bow, and that's what we call a crown. It doesn't matter where you're framing, if you're framing a floor, if you're framing a wall, whatever you're framing, turn all the crowns up. Always turn the crowns up. The problem, sometimes if you would turn those opposite each other, it would cause a big lump in your wall. So you don't want to have that. In our case, the OSB extends all the way to the top of the foundation wall. To kind of tie, it ties the wall all the way to the trusses. And if you notice, we have what we call hurricane clips to hold the trusses onto the wall. This house has trusses. We'll discuss rafters and ceiling joists in a later video. I just want to reveal some of the components and the way you put them together. Now, our inside walls, this is an inside wall here. We frame our inside walls out of 2x4. And one thing that you do want to take note of is the cap plate. For example, I've got this wall coming into this wall here. The cap plate ties over the top of that wall. Your top and bottom plate are identical, but your cap plate ties the walls together. It goes over that wall and it goes over that wall. And you'll notice too, on top of our walls, we have nailers. So when our sheetrock comes to the edge, there's something to nail the sheetrock to. And if you would notice too, even down this hallway, normally with ceiling joists and rafters, we wouldn't have all these nailers. Now the reason we have these nailers on these walls is because the trusses, in the heat and the cold, they expand and contract. And we can't nail our sheetrock within 16 inches of the wall because it will crack. So we nail it to a nailer on top of the wall. Now this one, we've used 2x8, and the reason we use 2x8 here is because we had a donation of a lot of 2x8, and normally we don't use 2x8 anywhere. So this was a good place to make nailers out of. Now, if you'd notice too, over here on the side, we have baffles. Now the reason those baffles are there is because we blow in insulation on the top. Now this insulation is about 18 inches deep, which gives us an R50. Also on the front, you would notice we have an OSB dam. This is to keep the insulation from running onto the front porch. And you notice the nailer along the front wall there. It's 2x6. And we have a door framed here. And notice the same thing, header with cripples all the way to the floor. This is a 6.830 door. Now, they've changed the terminology a little bit, and normally you go with the narrow first, like a 3068. So it's 80 inches high and 3 foot wide. So standard procedure, when you frame a door opening, you allow 2 inches on the width and 2 inches on the height. So instead of being 36 inches wide, this door frame is 38 inches wide to accommodate the jamb. And also at the top, it's 82 inches tall instead of 80 inches to accommodate the top jamb and the sill. Now if we walk back through the house here, I want to show you a couple more things. Here's a framing opening for the cold air return. Our furnace has one cold air return in the house. There will be registers for the heat under all the windows, but this is, they put a metal liner in here and a filter. So this is framed for the cold air return. We have a framed opening in the bathroom for access to the crawl space. We have a conditioned space crawl space. We have 2-inch styrofoam on all the foundation walls. We have plastic on the ground. One more thing that we put in that is not by code, it's just one of those things that our people are in tune with, is radon elimination. We have a pipe that goes down into the gravel that's on the ground under in the crawl space. It goes under the plastic. It's a perforated pipe that the goal is to capture the radon gas from underneath. The plastic is all sealed with tape so that there's no air leakage into the crawl space, which would deliver the radon gas, and it's vented out the roof with this pipe. One more thing that might be a good thing to know, if you look at this where the bathroom wall is, the bathroom wall is also 2x6 to accommodate the plumbing. And if you notice, there's a stud on each side of where the bathroom wall leaves this wall. We have a block on top, middle, and bottom to give us nailing. And you can observe the double top plate, the cap plate. You can see where it comes through at that point. Framing's pretty basic. Now here's something that our people do that I normally don't do. they put a double stud at the joint of the double top plate, well, the top plate where the walls come together. I always just rely on the cap plate to tie this together and stiffen it. Your cap plate should always extend 4 feet on both sides of your joint in your top plate. So in other words, let's look, find a place where we've got a joint. Okay, here's a joint in her top plate, and you notice they put the double stud. That cap plate should extend 4 foot on both sides of this joint in the top plate to stiffen that wall. We have one more opening here that's between the trusses. This is access to our attic, and you notice we've got OSB framed to a height of 20 inches to accommodate our blow-in insulation. Our electrician's been here already, and he's got it wired. We're waiting for a plumber. Another thing that we do that's a little odd is we sheet the inside of our bathroom wall with OSB. Now the reason we sheet that with OSB is because we fasten a toilet paper dispenser, a towel bar, a shower rod, and all these things. It's easier to just sheet it than it is to try to put blocking in there for all that stuff. We have blocking for our medicine cabinet, we have blocking for a vanity, we have blocking for our towel bar on this wall. If you notice too, all the pink dots on the floor, this is to denote, for this pink block, there's an electrical box over top of it. So when we go through the house, we check with all these pink dots to make sure that we haven't covered up any of our outlets. And also, if you notice, we have black lines on the floor made with the permanent marker. Now these, when we hang our sheetrock, these will tell us where our studs are. So when we nail, we'll be able to find our studs. The same thing with the top plate. You'll notice all the marks. When we hang our ceiling, drywall, we'll know where our trusses are. We won't have to guess. So we'll run a line across here with our nails so that we'll know where to nail. We also have a line on each side of our truss. You'll notice a black line. That gives our insulator a depth for the insulation. He'll know how deep to pile the insulation when he brings it. Now all of these openings on our walls will have, we seal all of our openings with foam to stop air movement. We put foam on our electrical boxes to seal them from airflow. Airflow is the main loss of heat, the main transfer of outside heat to the inside cool. So we try to seal these. We're in Ohio, and there's an Ohio energy code. So in order to comply, we use a blower door to test how many times the air turns over in this house within an hour, and I think it's 3 times an hour that we're allowed. I think we're actually allowed 5 times, but we go for 3 to make it a little better. You notice too that we have a joint in our OSB here. These joints are caulked. If you notice, we have caulking along our floor to keep airflow from coming in here. We have caulking at the top of our sill plate on the foundation. We do everything we can to keep airflow at a very minimum. Okay, thank you very much. That's framing. The next one we'll talk about rafters, hopefully. Thank you and have a great day.